Time now to take a check of Orange County's bottom line. Joining us to talk about the state of our economy and the nation, we're always happy to welcome Real Orange business anchor and Chapman professor Pete Weitzner back to the studio. Hi, Pete.
Hi, Ann. Hi, Greg.
Hey,
always
Pete.
Good to be here.
Glad to have you here. Well, last week it was the gross domestic product, since we spoke about it, and it was a job report that confirms again the economy is looking okay.
The song remains the same. The economy is looking okay. If you look at the jobs number, Greg, and 39th month, we've had 6-digit increases in jobs, and we're at a 5-year low as far as the jobless rate goes, 7.4%. Looks good enough, but several cautionary notes, and the biggest might be the labor force participation rate, a fancy word for saying those who can look for work, how many are. That's 63%. Well, that's at a 45-year low. And why? Because you can only presume, for the most part, people are discouraged. If the economy is improving, why are they discouraged? A lot of those jobs created, and it was only 162,000, are part-time jobs. Wages are still flat. We should have better job creation. It's still historically low for such a steep recession than we're getting. We're down to 7.4. We were at 10. Orange County was at 10 several years ago. California has improved to 8.5%, our improving real estate market for one. So we, of course, were at about 13%. So everywhere in the country, the jobless rate is pushing down. The discouraging note is the type of jobs and the fact that some folks, in record numbers, are not looking.
Right. Well, and those folks who are actually finding the jobs, where are they going? Where are they finding them?
Disneyland.
Oh, really?
Well, we've talked for years about how, we have a very diversified economy in Southern California and Orange County, but leisure and hospitality a much bigger part. And of course, the Disney Resort is the biggest example, but our beaches and many examples of that. And that's been the biggest job creator. Construction jobs too, especially residentially.
Right, we're talking about residentially. Homeowners, 60% of those in the U.S., they're kind of feeling optimistic too these days. They're still optimistic.
What a difference a few years makes. Remember, we'd give those statistics, how many homeowners were underwater. A good deal fewer now. A good deal now have equity, not to the extent they had equity, say, in 2006, but only 5% late on their mortgage. 60% say their home's worth at least their mortgage, and 49%, here's the optimism, say their home's going to keep going up in value.
Glass half full.
Right.
Right. But this optimism actually sparks concern for a bubble, though, right?
We had the figures out just this morning. Orange County went up 22% year over year. California 21% year over year. And it does spark concerns because we're now at our median of 545, and how many people can afford that? Mortgage rates are very low, even with a slight increase. That's helping affordability. Builders are aware of this, though, and they do not want that bubble, that oversupply to happen. Again, we're a ways away from that, but that kind of optimism, you'd like that dialed back a little.
Well, let's talk about optimism over at Disneyland. Employment and everything else is up at Disneyland these days, right?
Stocks trading within an all-time high, and the biggest reason is the results from the theme parks. Disney's a diversified company. They got the broadcast networks led by ESPN. They got the film studios, which had a bad quarter because of the Lone Ranger. But when you look at the results from Disneyland, they don't break out Disney World and Disneyland, but we do know that together they had record attendance in the second quarter. And there's the second quarter profit for the company overall, but a big contributor, as you can see, the parks and resorts. And obviously here, the refurbishing of California Adventure and Cars Land, a big contributor. So a very good quarter overall, and the parks led the way. Record attendance.
And if Disney fans aren't already happy enough with the happiest place on
too,
earth.
by the way.
Oh, I know.
Kidding, right?
$92 now, so
it's unreal.
Go online before you go. That's the trick.
Is there more on the horizon to make those of us who are already happy with Disney even happier? Or
they have this convention now. Disney files know all about it, called D23.
What's that?
The D is for Disney, and 23 is, I guess, the year that Walt came to Hollywood. Oh. And this will be every other year, and it's in town this weekend. So if you were smart to avoid the Ortega Highway last weekend, I would say avoid Catella Avenue on this weekend. In addition to the booming attendance at the Anaheim Convention Center, the D23, it's a Disneyland file convention, is in town.
Okay.
So speaking of traffic that's not happening, how about the folks over at Time Warner? Some cable subscribers in LA and Orange County aren't getting Channel 2.
They are not. These are usually short-lived. These disputes, we've seen them before, not just with Time Warner, but Time Warner, I think, has had an ongoing one, for instance, with the NFL Network. And this time it's a broadcast network. It's over transmission fees. Here are the details. And now we're going on close. I think Friday would make it a week, where Time Warner in big markets, in markets that it's not only a CBS station, but a CBS owned and operated station, so that would hurt CBS more, take CBS, Showtime, or the big ones, off the air. and it's about 3 million homes. They say CBS is losing $400,000 a day. If you look at CBS numbers, that's immaterial. They are also trading near an all-time high and made about $1 billion in just the last quarter. And they also say that the maximum length would be 6 weeks, because the last thing Time Warner wants to do is take CBS off the air when the National Football League starts. But it does look like this could drag on for a while. Retransmission fees, reports I've seen say they charge about 75 cents to $1 per subscriber per month for CBS. And there have been reports of anywhere of CBS wanting up to $6. CBS says that's way overblown, but they do want an increase, and that's the issue.
Oof. All right.
CBS says it might be, we don't get exactly, it might be as little as a quarter they want extra.
Right. But whatever it is, Time Warner is saying.
We might make you a la carte. They don't want that. And
yeah, no.
Here we are.
It's very strange.
Yeah. Last week we talked about Richmond, California. Now they have a plan to apply eminent domain to their mortgages. Is that still in the works?
It's kind of understandable to a town like Richmond, one of these California towns that has not had any sort of recovery. And so they want their residents basically to stay. And rather than eminent domain, as we're used to seeing it on property, they want to take over these mortgages, but they want to drive a pretty hard bargain, and they might have a tough legal fight to be able to do this. Clearly, the financial industry doesn't want them to. Say you're a homeowner in Richmond, California, you bought your home $400,000 loan. The value is now only $200,000. There's little incentive maybe to stay, right? What the city says is we'll buy that loan for $160,000. Even harder deal for the folks holding it. Yeah. Then we'll make the new balance $190,000, so our investors can make a little money, the $30,000, and now as a homeowner, suddenly your home is now worth what you owe versus being worth half of what you owe. That's their plan. The lawyers are lining up to challenge it, and a lot of folks are watching this. There's many other cities that have a similar problem.
Sure.
You know, high unemployment and blighted areas, or what could be blighted areas if there's flight.
Yeah.
It's always fun, lawyers lining up. Well, and then I'm sure. Thanks, Pete. Appreciate it.
You guys see you next week.
Thanks a lot, Pete.